A look at the day's top business news with Brian Quinn. And Brian, we're going to start here in the European Union, where leaders are pushing Brussels to reach a trade deal with the United States.
Indeed. So the EU currently has until July 9th to make a deal with the Trump administration. Last Friday, the president threatened to slap 50% tariffs on European goods on June 1st before extending that deadline after a call with EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen over the weekend. Trump had accused Brussels of slow-walking trade talks after the U.S. was forced to de-escalate its trade war with China due to threats of a supply shock in the States. Italy, France, Ireland, and Spain are all reportedly urging Brussels to instead fast-track those talks now. If implemented, Trump's 50% tariffs would target some 321 billion euros in EU goods. He's already put 10% tariffs on all global imports to the U.S., as well as 25% duties on European steel and aluminum. Europe has prepared a package of retaliatory levies on $21 billion of American imports in response to the metals tariffs, with an additional list of $95 billion in U.S. goods should Trump follow through on that 50% threat. That kind of trade conflict could shave 0.6% off U.S. GDP and help fuel inflation there. Analysts, though, say it would likely be even worse for Europe.
The EU would like to de-escalate. If there's a compromise that can be found that would take the tension out of the system, that would just pull everyone back from the brink and get rid of some of this uncertainty, that's something Brussels would very much like. If it does go into all-out trade war, Brussels will have to retaliate, and that's something that will take a lot of time, a lot of energy, and have a lot of costs to the real economy.
Well, in the midst of this increasingly uncertain global trade environment, leaders in Asia and the Middle East looking to shore up their trade ties.
Indeed, they are. The 46th ASEAN summit of Southeast Asian nations currently underway in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This year, the gathering is taking on added urgency as Trump's global trade war threatens the region's heavily export-driven economies. In a bid to insulate those economies, ASEAN is holding its first ever trilateral talks with China, with Premier Li Qiang there, as well as the Gulf Cooperation Council of Middle Eastern oil-producing countries. The U.S. remains Southeast Asia's largest source of foreign investment, with China coming in fourth place after Japan and the EU. Trump's tariffs, though, changing the outlook there. Meanwhile, with China as Washington's prime target for tariffs, Beijing is looking to boost its exports to non-U.S. countries. China and ASEAN are already each other's largest trading partners, with Chinese exports to Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia up by double digits in April. China says it wants to boost cooperation with ASEAN as much as possible. Take a listen here.
Collaboration will also foster the use of common technology to promote integrated digital economy. Meanwhile, the closer cooperation will lead to the increasing interaction across business sectors, which will promote trade and investment flows and reliable and resilient supply chains in the region.
Let's get a quick check-in on the day's trading action. How are the markets shaping up so far, Brian?
So it's a mixed picture on Asian indexes Tuesday as investors try to keep up with that constantly changing global trade context. Concerns over mounting U.S. debt, meanwhile, as Republicans try to push Trump's budget-busting big, beautiful bill through the Senate, are pushing the dollar down against Asian currencies. That is bad news for Japanese exporters, but the Nikkei in Tokyo still managing to gain around 0.5%. Meanwhile, a second straight month of growing industrial profits in China, not enough to keep Hong Kong and Shanghai out of the red. The Kospi in Seoul giving up some ground after hitting a 3-month high on Monday. It is off by 0.5%, just ahead of the closing bell there.
And finally, Brian, from you, for this hour here in France, we're seeing a recent spate of crypto crime finally resulting in some arrests.
So, Eve, usually when we talk about crypto crime, it's either about hacking digital wallets, online scams, that sort of thing. France, though, has seen a number of violent kidnappings as gangs have sought to extort ransoms from people who have made fortunes in cryptocurrencies. Around 15 people were arrested on Monday morning. Jenny Shin and our colleagues at France 2 have the details.
At the Paris police headquarters on Monday afternoon, unmarked trucks and around 30 men from the anti-bandit squad mobilized for a large-scale raid. After 3 weeks of investigation, some 15 people have been arrested in Paris and its suburbs, as well as the Loire region in western France. They're suspected of taking part in this violent kidnapping attempt on May 13th, in broad daylight in the heart of Paris. A young woman whose father made a fortune in cryptocurrency narrowly escaped thanks to the help of passers-by. Investigators say this case is linked to another kidnapping in Paris just 13 days prior. The father of a cryptocurrency millionaire was mutilated here in the Paris suburbs for 3 days, his finger cut off by attackers before he was released by the police.
We're seeing the same recruitment method we're currently seeing in many cases, with a very young workforce recruited on social media.
So far, the suspects include 2 minors and 2 young delinquents known to authorities for common crimes, who are believed to have been in charge of the logistics and the vehicles used for the kidnappings. But they're only a small part of a much larger crime underworld that now targets cryptocurrency fortunes.
It's much better for an individual to rob someone who has a wallet with a few bitcoins than to rob a bank. That amount quickly exceeds hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's less risky.
An investigation is now underway to identify the masterminds.
Always a risky asset, cryptocurrencies, but you would hope that risk would stay in the financial realm and not the physical one, Eve.
Indeed, Brian Quinn. Thanks a lot for that business update.